Welcome back to the channel. DT here with Creaser Golf. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to take you inside a 60-minute swing evaluation at a GOLFTEC in Austin, Texas. If you've been following along with the channel, you know that I'm getting back into golf after about 30 years. I did a full bag fitting and a bunch of other things to get me kind of back into the groove of getting on course and hitting balls again. In August of this year, while watching a PGA Tour event, I saw an advertisement for GOLFTEC, this indoor facility that uses a lot of video cameras and data to improve your swing and improve your game. And they were running a sale at the time, and I thought, hey, why not get in there? And so I want to take you today through that first 60-minute swing evaluation. I want you to use the timestamps in the description below. I'll try and break the swing down into its various piece parts, be it from setup or takeaway to downswing and follow through and such. And we'll walk you through the GOLFTEC Clubhouse web app, and they also have a phone app as well. And I'll walk you through all of this in their Clubhouse web app. So I'll take you onto the computer and we can go through what it sounds like to listen to a lesson. So use the timestamps. It might get a little lengthy. You might want to jump around and look at different things. And just by clicking on the timestamp itself in the description below, you'll be able to jump to that spot in the video. Hopefully it'll be helpful for you. I've also got a link in the description below. If you click on that and sign up for a swing evaluation or a lesson at GOLFTEC, you'll get a certain amount of money off, and I think that I get the same amount of money back onto my account as well. So it's kind of a win-win situation. It's applicable anywhere in the country, so feel free to click on that and use that link to your advantage. So there are 3 GOLFTEC locations in Austin, Texas, and I went to the Westlake one. And you might be wondering, what do these things look like? Where are they? And if you jump over to this particular screen, here's a Google Maps view of the Westlake location that I go to. So it's literally in a strip mall, and they have a leased space. They have 3 hitting bays inside this space that are all geared up, and you'll in a moment be able to see the inside of one of these things. And so when you set up a swing evaluation, what you'll do is you'll go into one of these facilities. So it's indoor, obviously. They want you to wear your golf shoes and everything that you would normally wear on the course to simulate what you're doing out on the course itself. And you'll be assigned and work with a coach. For me, I submitted a web inquiry over the GOLFTEC website, and I got a response from one of the coaches at GOLFTEC. And so I started a dialogue with this person, asked some questions, ended up actually calling the facility, and I luckily connected directly with the coach who I was interfacing with over email. But I wanted to ask a little bit more about, who this person was, what kind of experience they had. And it seems like all of the coaches who are at the Westlake Austin facility are very experienced. So the coach who I'll introduce you to in a moment is someone who's done, I think, over like 2,000 lessons at GOLFTEC. He played college golf, I think, and great guy. And so really a really fun environment to learn in. And so to get started, you'll go into the facility, you'll go into a specific hitting bay. For me, I'm left-handed, so they have things set up in one specific bay for left-handers. And so that was helpful to always know where I'm going when I go into the facility. And from there, you get warmed up, you hit some shots, and then for me, I ended up grabbing a 7-iron, and we baselined everything off of the 7-iron. And so what we ended up doing was we took kind of a before analysis of my swing, and I'll dive into that in a moment. And then we did an analysis of the various piece parts of my swing. And so my coach ended up recording each of those various piece parts. So you can hear him talking in the background. He'll usually catch a video of a particular swing, and then we'll deep dive and analyze that particular swing. In GOLFTEC, it seems like they're using the GCQuad, and you're hitting into a bay that is a blank screen in front of you, and then they have 4 large TVs on the wall around you and a bunch of video cameras, and the coach can use the computer to analyze your swing. And also he or she can call up clips of PGA Tour players that they've analyzed their swings, and they can kind of use those to compare and contrast against what you were doing and maybe what you should be doing in your swing. So let's go over to the computer. We'll dive in to the Clubhouse web app from GOLFTEC, and I can walk you through kind of the structure of what this swing evaluation looked like. And again, there's timestamps in the description below, so you can jump around back and forth as you see fit. Okay, so here we are in the GOLFTEC web app, and within the Clubhouse view, you have each of the individual lessons that you've done. I did this swing evaluation back in August of this year, and I've only done one other lesson since then. I also purchased a package that gives me 90 minutes of practice time per week, and I typically will try and go in there and hit some balls indoor as well. And here you can get a view of the room that you're actually in, or the hitting bay, if you will. So down here, you can see the front-on view. As I was saying, you're hitting into, at least at this facility, you're hitting into a white mat. There's no course projection, if you will, on the wall. You can see in this right-hand pane, these are 2 of the 4 TVs that are on the walls. And you can kind of see in the right-hand corner here, this is my coach, and he's sitting in front of a desktop computer, and he's just about to analyze what's going on. And then, as I said, you are looking at a swing evaluation. So you do a before and after video of your swing, and then in between you're analyzing different piece parts of the swing. And so on the bottom here, you've got my initial swing. We'll take a quick look at that. This is before the lesson started, essentially. You can see a few things there right off the bat in terms of the dip that I've talked about before in a previous video. I probably had the ball a little bit too far forward in my stance. And again, I'm hitting a 7-iron right here, and some other things. And then at the end of the lesson, after you talk through the analysis, you're given some drills and such, you do another one. You can see the difference in this one. I'll go ahead and play it. Watch the finish. Instead of me dipping as much as I did here in this first video, see that dip at the end? If we go to the end of the lesson, here's my second one. Look how I'm trying to stand a little bit taller, post up on that leg. Actually, if this video would have continued, I kind of fell forward even a little bit there as I was doing something that was rather unnatural to me. So from here, we're going to dive into the various piece parts analysis of my swing. And again, timestamps in the description below. That'll help you kind of move around to see what types of things the coach is talking about at any one part of the swing. So I'm going to click into this analysis tab right here, and you'll see that we have a number of videos along the bottom tray here. We can kind of go through each of these. And we start out by looking at the setup position, and then we kind of go throughout there and start looking at the various piece parts of the swing.
So essentially, when we look at the address position, we're looking at kind of the fundamentals, right? Grip, aim, setup, posture, right? That's kind of our base. We got to make sure all that's set and ready to go before we take this club back, because essentially we can compensate because of the way that we're aimed or the way that we're standing, different ways like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off here with our grip, right? Now, in terms of our grip, we are to see, you know, where our V's are pointed. So you can see that this one's pointed this way, right? You see that little line that is formed in between your index and your thumb there, pointed this way. And this one is a little bit like so, right? It's okay, right? You're not complete. You don't leave the face open like so crazily. So that's an okay grip, right? If we did wanted to, you know, get a little bit less away from these push, because you were kind of pushing them out there just a little bit, right? A little out to the left. But if we wanted you to start that way and, you know, work its way back to the right, somewhat like, let's say this one did here, right, like this one, but start it a little bit more this way, get it a little bit solider. That would just mean that we'd have to get the arrow that's with our glove hand, right, the little index and thumb arrow, to point also to your right or your left shoulder. I'm sorry. So you turn it in a little bit. Yep. Just helps us close the face just a little bit more. So like that one that we just hit, right, and went to the left, that it kind of makes that zero out that possibility, right? To make the percentage of that happen as least as possible, right? So a little bit of turning in that glove hand is going to help with us closing the face, but other than that, you know, your other hand's doing pretty dang well. So next thing we're going to look at is going to be our aim, right? So the way we aim, I'm sure you remember, is with the club head itself, right, and then also with our feet, right? So you can see here we have somewhat of this little railroad track here, and that's excellent. Very good. Now also, we do aim a little bit with our shoulders and our hips, right? So for example, if we're aimed pretty well with our feet and our club, it's very easy for us to be, let's say, a little bit too closed, or maybe a little bit too open, right? And maybe sometimes it's not with our hips, it's more with our upper body, right? It's hard to see those things unless, let's say, somebody's behind you and like, hey dude, your shoulders are all the way over here, or they're all the way over here, right? So according to the Opti motion, your hips are doing excellent. So they're aiming right down the line, 3 degrees open, right? Okay. So when we see a green number, this is good, right? Now, when we see a red or a yellow or a blue, the blue is better than all those other colors. Red is obviously bad, right? We want no red. But also the yellow, it's a little, yeah, we got to sharpen that up a little bit, right? It's just under.
And here's where you start to see the power of GOLFTEC. So they'll start flashing up these individual numbers or measures onto the screen. As Klein was saying there, they're in green, yellow, and red to kind of orient you as to what you're doing well, what you need to work on, and what you're not doing well at all. And the nice thing about this is that all of this video that you're seeing, it gets uploaded not immediately after, but within 24 hours of your lesson. It gets uploaded to the cloud and then available in the web app. So I have access to this video and I can go back and look at it. And so it's fantastic that he's recording everything as he's kind of giving me instruction. I'm able to engage and interact with him along the way there. And he's looking at all these different measures. And so that's something to take away as well, is you're going to see a lot of data that they're able to share with you. And also it's available to you for reuse. So that's pretty cool.
Underneath the green spectrum, but still, can be hurting us. So if we look at shoulder turn, you got a blue number, right? So essentially what that means is with your shoulders right now, we're a little bit aimed too much to the left-hand side, right? So think about what we were doing here. We're hitting a little bit off to that left-hand side, right? Yeah. And you think too, if you're anything like me, and the way I play, usually when I get myself into my position, I use this shoulder to kind of dictate where I'm going to finish, right? So if you're aimed, let's say, well, I'm right-handed, so if you're aimed a little bit to the left, like you are, that would be me doing this, it's really going to encourage me to finish a little bit out to that left side. Okay. So if we are closing our shoulders way too much, and honestly it's just a couple degrees, I would say it's anywhere between 3 to 4 degrees that you need to just get back on track, and then you'd be right there, right?
So
now,
I'm closed.
Okay. So if I was to, let's say, you get in your position, and I put my club across your chest, it would be aimed a little bit more this way than kind of right down the line, right? Okay. So that would be us just, kind of pushing that right shoulder just a little bit back, right? But other than that, everything's really, really good. Now, 100%, this isn't, like, oh, this is the reason why you're hitting it left, but it is a huge encouragement for that, right? All right, now, the next thing we're going to look at is going to be our setup, right? Now, your setup is 100% what I want to see, right? Ball is a little bit not in the middle of your stance, but more left middle, right? About a club length, I would say, from the inside of your foot. That's good. You have your hands on top of the ball with a little shaft lean. Excellent. That ball's right outside of your left ear. Excellent. If I show you any one of these tour pros that we have videos of, they're setting up in a very, very, very similar position. So I will show you Rory here, and then I'll switch him around. So he's a left. We have the shoulder tilt. So does he, right? He's got that ball outside of his left ear. So do you, right? He has that ball about a club head length from the front foot. So do you, right? So these are really, really good things. Now, going back to the grip. Now, if you see his grip, you see his logo part of his glove. You see how it's a lot more exposed than yours. That's where that little turning it in is going to help with that, that closing of the club for the most.
Something that I've really changed is going more toward a strong grip. So as Klein was saying there, really being able to see more of the logo on the glove, seeing 2 to 3 knuckles on my right hand for me as a left-handed golfer. And simply making that change has allowed me to hit the ball even further. So I've played around now, given the fact that I can measure a lot of these things being at GOLFTEC or using the Rapsodo launch monitor out on the range or on the course. I can actually move my grip around specifically with my right hand and going from more of a weak grip to a strong grip And I've noticed that with a strong grip, I can actually hit the ball further. There's a great video out there. I'll see if I can link to it in the description below, where they're talking about strong is long. So a strong grip allows you to hit the ball a long ways.
Right. That's pretty much the whole reason why we have a glove in the hand, is because it has a lot of influence of what we can do, and we want to make sure it doesn't slip or anything like that, right? But nonetheless, setup is very, very good. I love it. I love it. Now, let me get you back to where we can see the other view. Now, posture. I know you did bring this up to me a little bit, right? Now, if you see, you're a very lengthy guy like me. It's very cool. So we got a lot of the same things going on. We're a little bit on our heels, and you can see that we have a slight little C posture here, right? Now, it's very easy for this to happen with us taller guys, just because we're so lengthy, right? Now, what I want us to do there is we're going to need to take a little bit of a step back. So if we got in that position, right, and we're like this, essentially what we'd be doing is taking a little step back, and then from there we're going to try to point our pelvis more at the ground, right? Because we're a little bit like this, and we need to be a little bit more like that, straighten up the spine angle, stand up a little bit more with our neck, right? Because we're just looking down, right? It's not like the club is right underneath us where we have to get down like a putting stroke, right? It's a little bit out in front of us, so we don't want to be completely like this. We want to be a little bit more straight. And I'll tell you, it's one of those things that even when I'm doing it right now, it's very easy for us to get into that bad posture because we're very lengthy like that, right? But having ourselves in the easiest way, I'm going to show you a little trick on how to do it kind of every time. Once we start, kind of going through the stuff that we want you to work on. But yeah, improving that spine angle, getting those knees not to be too bent, right, and not have our butt hanging so far over our heels is going to help us with that, right? Being more on the balls of our feet. Like we're playing second base or a linebacker, it's just going to help us with ground force, because essentially that's what those pros are doing. They're like pushing off from that right side and generating all this club head speed, mostly because of the rotation and ground force, right? So posture, that's what we're going to have to do there, right? Like I said, spine angle just a little bit down, and this is also going to help where that club is positioned too, because you can also see that's a little close to our legs, right? So it's not usually everything that's in the setup position, like the fundamental stuff, is usually like a slight tweak. It's never like, oh man, this is something we're gonna have to fix crazy, right? Never anything like that. But that pretty much, these guys have a pretty steady head. It only just slightly bobs, maybe up and down, just a little bit, because they come up and then they really bring their head down when they come into impact, right? So that's what's going to be going on there, just trying to honestly coil and uncoil within that spectrum, right? Then on the left side, that's going to be your club plane, right? Your club path, right? That is a general area where we're looking for the club head itself to travel, right? It's a huge part because it's, can depict if we're coming down too shallow, if we're coming down too steep, whatnot. But that's going to show us what's going on there, right? So let's start to take the club back and see a little bit of what's going on here. Alright, so we'll take it back to the takeaway position. We'll see how when we start to bring the club back, it's actually in a very, very good spot. Super good spot as far as the path that you're taking it back on, right? Very, very nice. It's still touching that line. Essentially, the more it stays to that bottom line, the better, because that's your actual plane. That is it. Essentially, the spectrum of it is that big, just because that's what we see a lot of the tour pros. They're either somewhat inside of that little area, right? But the closer that you are to this line right here, for example, the better, because that is where your club sets up at the address position and the line that runs through that, right?
So are you saying you take it outside?
No. Okay. You're bringing it right back in. So you want to think of it almost like the hula hoop analogy, right? So it doesn't completely come straight back. It kind of comes at that angle, right, where it's a little bit working like this. Now, if you came straight outside and you were coming straight back, your club wouldn't be in this position right here. It'd be out in this area. You'd be really outside. So you're bringing it in. It's very, very nice. I like that position right there. It'd be hurting us in this position. Now, this isn't a position where we really start to be like, oh man, he's already messing this up. It's usually at the top. We like to see what's going on, because sometimes you can, let's say for example, sway a little bit and then get it right at the right position up at top. but sometimes you can sway a little bit at the beginning and then keep it going, and then your momentum is like, oh man, you just loaded up on the right side like a baseball player, right? So your sways in terms of your shoulder sway and your hip sway are 0.5 and 0.4 inches away, right? So if we go back to the position that we start on, and I would pay attention more over here on the right side, and I start to bring the club back, you're going to see how you slightly get on that right side just a little bit, right? So it's not much, but you can see how it's just a little bit of your majority of your weight's on this side, on that foot, right, on that back foot. And we just have to be careful with that, because when we get up to the top, you can see how your hips are doing okay, but your shoulders are still a little bit behind, right? So this can hurt us in aspects of, our hips may get there too fast and our upper body doesn't have enough chance to get there. So that's why we see our little bit of our feel that dip that you talk about, right? Because your hips are already going so far this way, right? Let's say you get your hips through, you're going to have to somewhat go like that, right? Because they're not kind of like all in the same motion. So your hips get all the way over here, and then you're like, oh shoot, got to kind of dip, because they're already over here. You have to do that, right? Okay. So we'll see if that happens right now, but we will see that you have good tilt at the top, right? Your hip bend is very good. Let's see what else. Your turn, you got plenty of turn at the top, right? Now your hips are a little bit underturned. I would say about 5 to 7 degrees there. So when we work on some of the things here, as far as getting a little bit more turn, you'll be able to feel that a little bit easier, because that's also going to help you hit the ball further without actually even putting any effort into it. It's just you kind of closing your hips to essentially opening them in our terms, right? Yeah. Just getting a little bit more of this, because ultimately the further that club is able to travel, the more that you get this rotation, and we're kind of like a rubber band, right? The further you pull the rubber band back, the further it's going to go, right? So you think of us the same way. The further that we rotate, the more that we'll be able to hit it a little bit more efficiently, right? Now, that being said, it's not too much, but it is going to help in that aspect. Now, let's look at what starts to happen when we bring the club down, right? This is usually the most important part. Do very, very well. You drop that club right into the spectrum, and you can see here that on the right side, you still have a fairly well-made 90-degree angle with your club and your arm there. So that's excellent. You still have plenty of wrist bend and wrist hinge and all that stuff. Like I said, still coming down this middle area on the left side, right down the spectrum. Now this is one of your good hits here, right? Now I want you to pay attention to a little bit of your impact position. You're going to come in, and you see how we dip a little bit there at the end? Yeah. That what we really, and you do it perfectly right here. You can see how you straighten up that right leg, and you're kind of driving the left knee in there. Yeah. What we need to do is continue that, because you'll see how we'll buckle down a little bit, and we get rotated through, but we're a lot like this, right, versus being straight up, standing up tall, and really almost feeling like you're straightening yourself up to the target, right, getting more of this happening, right? Okay. That's going to help us not only not get that little dip sensation where we're going to hit down on the ball and kind of hit behind it. Yeah. It's going to help us get through the ball a little bit more efficiently, right? Okay. So, let's see here.
And you think I'm sliding my hips out too early, like on my...
No, like if we go here and we look at your impact position, you can see that your hip sways are actually right where they need to be. So we need to get through. So I'm going to show you an example here of Colin. Colin Morikawa. I'm sure you've heard of this guy. He's not the biggest guy on tour, but I'll tell you, this guy murders the ball. Alright, so I want you to pay attention to a little bit of what he does in his downswing. So when he takes it back, he does really good job of rotating all the way around himself, but you can sort of see how as he gets to the top, he's already starting to shift his weight to that front foot. See that? Yeah. Now, as he fully ignites and gets it going, you can transfer through. But watch that lead leg straighten. Watch the belt buckle start to go up like this. Watch, he's going to start pointing it up. See that? Yeah. and he really straightens that right leg, right? So it's almost like he's posting that right leg. He's going like this, so it's really exaggerated. It's like he's going like that, really straightening up this, being straight here, and he's going to get a lot of bend like we do in our swing, but more up on his back versus down here like this, because we're losing a lot of power when we go like that, not efficiently driving through the ball the way we'd like to, right? So he's going to post that, and you'll see he's going to keep it like that, and there's his little bend on his back. So he's doing a great job of getting on that left foot, and you'll see how it looks a little crazy there too, because it looks like he's almost floating. But there's a way to go around that, like even with my swing. I don't stand perfectly square. I stand with a little bit of a flare. So when I finish, I'm not like this. I'm more so like this, and my foot doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah.
Because that over time, I will tell you, when I was playing in college, I used to practice so much, I would get like these little freaking like sores and stuff, just because I was always finishing on my left side.
Yeah.
Eventually told my trainer about it, and he's like, why don't you just flare your foot out a little bit? He had no idea like anything about golf. He's like, why don't you just flare your foot out so you don't just finish like that? And I was like, that's a good point. And there's a lot of guys that do that now. So yeah, really posting through it and not necessarily kind of crunching down and falling through it. You can see too, when he gets his full finish, it almost looks like he is pointing that front lead shoulder or the back shoulder.
Yeah.
He's almost like pointing it towards the target, right? He's like this. And you can see that's where we finish a little bit. So we're not getting our full rotation in there, right? You can see how we're kind of stuck a little bit with the shoulders just like this, versus them being, and that's going to help us a lot, right?
Okay.
It's really, I will tell you, the path and everything is really, really solid.
Okay.
Like it's really, really good. It's just a little bit more of how we're utilizing our body into impact a little bit right now, right? It's not something too crazy. You have a really good swing. I mean, like I said, for not playing in 30 years, there's plenty of guys that would probably not even be able to hit the ball straight. There, they go and then they kind of buckle down. That's just us being where our hips are getting through too quick, and it's taking a little while for us to get there with our hands. So somewhat of this buckling action happens where you kind of come like this, and you're like, because you have to wait for it to get here, so you're going to extend, and then it's still not there, so you're going to have to lower yourself just to get it back into that. And it's something that you develop because you want to hit the ball right? So you got to figure it out somehow. It's like a compensation. But that finish right there, look at that. And if you're like that, it's going to be really easier for you to finish with your, that shoulder pointed a little bit. Yep. That looks so much better. So much better right there. We'll see here. We go here, and then, ooh, kind of fell a little bit down, right? And then here, we'll get into impact. And you see how you keep going? That was so much smoother. And you can also see how your waist is higher, and it's actually straighter, because here you can see how you're a little bit like this, and your belt buckle's a lot more online with this, right? So the more and more we're able to do that, the better. And you're also going to see how you're going to start to put a little bit more of a draw to it versus that little fade that you were showing me there that you were hitting. And I don't know exactly how your drives are. How do you hit your driver? What's your shape with that guy? You hitting it still pretty straight?
Yeah.
If you miss it though, what's
the miss is
a slice of Rooney?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say
and that's also
fade and maybe
so a little open, little push type deal, and that can happen when we're sliding and dipping versus getting and rotating, right? That's gonna be a big thing. I'm telling you, your swing, your plane is textbook. Very, very good. It's just more so the body movement getting through. Damn, look at the finish positions there. This is one, and that's your finish position of the other one. Those are the same positions at the top.
Yeah, I mean that going right, finishing tall.
Oh yeah.
Looks
yeah, and I'll tell you over time too, because if you practice a lot and stuff like that, over time this is going to put a lot of stress right there on those lower lumbars, right? This right here is going to help us a lot more, stay more upright. So when you kind of, when I do that right there, I can already feel it. My lower back is already messed up for the most part. Good. All right, we'll make this.
So after we went through the analysis, Klein gave me some drills to focus on. And as well, if we go back into the web app, we'll see that he actually put some notes into the lesson. So here are some drills that Klein put into my Clubhouse. And then here are the notes that he included for me. So overall, really fun to be able to see that amount of video and analysis, especially with the coach drawing on the screen and showing you the actual hip angles and where your club head should be and all of that good stuff. And so in my mind, I have a list of actions anywhere from my grip, which I've already changed, to where the ball is in my stance, to some of the things that I'm doing related to posting up on that lead leg in order to create more distance and get rid of that dip that you saw in my swing. And there are just a number of things that you can work on. And I'm just so impressed with the data-driven approach of GOLFTEC. It's really fun to go in there and to really analyze and work on these things one by one in a very methodical and data-driven way, which I can appreciate. If you got some value out of this, if you thought it was neat to be able to see inside of a GOLFTEC in one of these 60-minute swing evaluations, smash the like button for me, hit subscribe, ring the bell. I'm going to do some more of these in terms of the other lessons that I'm doing along the way, and you can track your progress along with me. Hopefully it'll be fun, just as I'm having fun too. Hey, thanks for stopping by the channel. Really appreciate it.